I've been a filmmaker for well over a decade. However, truthfully, my work doesn't really show that. So anytime I've applied for a videography job or I'll update my website and have an About Me page, I'd always cringe looking at the amount of time I would put that I've been a filmmaker. And I look at my work and think, like, is this really all I have to show for it, for all that time spent? Over time, and more recently, I've begun to really learn why I suck at my craft and why I haven't really improved that much over the years. Firstly, I wasn't being consistent in my craft. I wasn't shooting the same kind of stuff often enough and over a longer period of time to really build up those 10,000 hours worth of practice. The other thing is I never really put in like deliberate effort. I never set certain milestones to reach so that I can improve upon the skills I already had. I would say at the moment, if you look at my work, you may see some minor changes, some small upgrades or as far as quality and everything, but really a lot of that I would say it will be more credited to upgrading some of the equipment and access to lighting and different camera accessories than I would say what really is based on my own effort. There's not as much of my own skills being really refined. So if you feel the same way about your creative journey, then join me. Let's dive in together and figure out how we can be more deliberate about our practice so we can actually improve and push the needle forward. I'm Josh the Creative, and this channel is focused on sharing my experiences as a filmmaker, an entrepreneur, and overall creative. Failures, mistakes, and lessons learned, all laid out before you. And I hope this is in focus because I can't tell because the sun is in my face. So let's get started. A good place to start is figuring out what your goal is. This doesn't have to be a grand life goal of any kind, but a goal somewhere to reach within some period of time, whether it be within a few weeks, months, or even years. My goal in this particular avenue, I would say, is to be a better visual storyteller, and that becomes my starting point. In order for us to improve, we have to start thinking about what actually needs improving. There are probably a handful of areas within our craft that we're pretty much good at. Of course, things can be better, but we don't have to focus on those things if we already are where we want to be with them. They don't really require too much of our attention at this point. So for example, I'm fine with my current level of editing. I wouldn't say it's on any like expert level, but for what I'm trying to do and the kind of videos that I put out, I'm satisfied with where I am. So it's not my particular focus. However, I will say that a couple of weak areas that I have would be dynamic lighting and storytelling. Now those are two very different areas within the filmmaking arena. At least I know what target I want to reach within my goal. The 80-20 rule in this case says that 20% of the work yields 80% of the results. Now we can go about this the normal way and just stay busy. You know, we as people are very good at being busy. If you're in the workforce, you've been reinforced that the more work you do, the better your results are going to be. I know that for me, I was stuck thinking that, okay, if I just do more work, no matter what, that means I'm being productive. As long as I stay busy and stay moving around doing something, I know I'm being productive. But that is not correct. It's just not. I've done so much work that has gotten me nowhere. And in this case, filming stuff for over 10 years and only getting as far as I am kind of reflects that. So we have to take a step back and really think, okay, what are the things that are actually going to move the needle forward? So in this step, I would discern between the two aforementioned areas of improvement and considering, and you guys can tell, lighting is not going to change the impact or the power of a story. So I don't have to focus on that. That's not my main goal at this point. I mean, you can paint a pile of crap gold, but that still makes it crap. So that means that all I have left is to focus and hone in on my storytelling skills. Within this process of putting in our 10,000 hours worth of practice, within that time frame, we're going to need some stretch goals. These can be milestones or personal records for us to achieve along the way, almost like progress checks or report cards, so to say. But we need these milestones for us to reach, celebrate when we reach them, and use these to better quantify the progress that we've been making all along the way. So I was trying to think like, okay, what are some like mini goals or milestones that I can set for myself so I know that what I'm doing actually builds me up to a better storyteller. So, all right, ready? So I have things like get in the habit of researching more for each topic, spend more time on the script, and then be brutal in cutting out what isn't necessary. I want to do better at creating a video shot list that helps to support the story. And I may even focus on even diving down to the elements of the story itself and focus on creating a strong intro and then a strong body of the story and then a satisfying conclusion or closing to that story. So as I practice each level of this skill, I hope to build more and more great habits that get me in that process of being a better visual storyteller. My hand keeps going further and further up. So Angela Duckworth, in her book, Grit, she tried to see if flow, if you're not familiar with that, essentially the flow state will be effortlessly working and it's like you just get lost in time and space and the hours pass on. So while she's thinking about what flow is, she's challenging that against deliberate practice and trying to see if one can enter a state of flow while practicing. What she determined is, although it's possible to enjoy the process, it's not feasible to really enter that flow state because of the amount of concentration that is required. Cal Newport talks about it in his book, Deep Work, that I'm reading now, about having that extra amount of concentration that it really takes to focus in and do the work with all of your mind, not just subconsciously. It's not second nature. You're learning something new. You're challenging yourself to go beyond what you have been able to do before. So we can't treat our practice time like some menial or trivial task like we do chores or things like that. We have to be deliberate and conscious and think about what we're actually doing, what we're actually trying to improve. So I'm learning to stretch myself and go deeper on each particular topic that I'm passionate about. I can try to do as much research as I can. I really enjoy like finding articles that help to articulate some of the ideas that I've had, but also give me a more well-rounded approach to telling that particular story. I'm also learning to spend more time with the script itself and just kind of pour out a lot of my experiences and do so in a concise and effective manner. And as I go through this process, doing this over and over deliberately, I'm really trying to think about what is that message that I'm trying to get across? What do I want people to take away from the videos, from the stories that I tell? Practicing deliberately to improve upon our skills, focusing on one or two things at a time that really pushed me to forward, that is what's going to expedite our skill set. And then over time, we can start to see the fruit of our labor as we become better at or even masters of our craft. And this is where we fail, learn, repeat, and then triumph. So let me know in the comments below which of these principles resonate with you the most. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Deuces.